You're listening to a segment of the Inside Rock podcast on IWW Radio, Niagara Falls. Go to jabberguys.com to hear the full episode, as well as other Inside Rock episodes with Oat,
Queeks,
and Cha, the
Jabberguys.
Welcome to another episode of Inside Rock. Today is about memorable moments from the 1970s, Part 1.
Ironically, the 70s. You said memorable moments?
Yeah.
I was still sucking on my mom's teat.
Okay, just that visual makes me squeamish.
You have to bring that up.
So,
All right,
I'm just saying.
moving along.
Moving along.
I'm not going to say how old you were. I think you're about 10.
No, I wasn't. That's disgusting.
That's great.
Okay, I'm going to start off with a band.
Okay.
Are you ready? It's Black Sabbath.
Oh, Ozzy.
Their debut album was in, 1970, February.
It's awesome.
Yes. And go figure, it was on Friday the 13th.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was.
Makes you want to bite a head off a bat or something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, is that the go-to? Whenever somebody brings up Ozzy or Sabbath.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah. They recorded their debut album in a single day. One day.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, they did.
The whole album.
The whole album.
Now, hold on. So they recorded it one day. So, I mean, the prep and everything was probably in the works.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but even the production afterwards. They,
Do you imagine that, though? The talent to be able to record a whole album in one day.
Well, you know what? I guess it depends on if they were really high. Anything would sound good. Okay,
Well, it sounds
boys,
good.
it's a wrap.
It sounds good to us.
It's a
That's
wrap.
a great album.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a classic album. And
well, it'd be up to the producer, though, to call what's good and what's not.
Right. So, actually, their album went number 8 in the UK album charts.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Oh hell yeah! For the first album,
That's pretty impressive.
it is
actually.
impressive. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
And
they
don't-
kicked the 70s off with a bang.
Black Sabbath.
Well, that paved the way. Like even Rob Halford from Priest.
Yeah.
He brings up that album like that just set the path to a lot of these heavy metal bands followed.
If Rob Halford loves them, so do I.
Yeah, good old Rob. He knows
He's the
what he's
best.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Okay, that's 1970. You know what else happened in 1970?
What else happened in
Well,
1970?
a year before, everybody remembers Woodstock. We talked about it in a previous podcast. But there was another festival called the Isle of Wight Festival. And that was in 1970, and it was by far the largest of the festivals to date. The estimates for attendance were over 600,000. And even though Woodstock didn't have an accurate head count because they were just flooding in from everywhere, they estimated the crowds there at 500,000. So the Isle of Wight, a year later, topped 600,000 people. They had performers like Jimi Hendrix. Now, remember, at Woodstock, Jimi Hendrix performed on the final day, actually Monday morning of Woodstock. Remember we talked about that?
That's right.
And there was like 500,000 people he expected to come out to, and because he chose to go last at Woodstock, he performed in front of about 40 or 50,000.
But I just chose. He demanded to go last.
He demanded to go last. That was one of the prerequisites when he signed up.
It kind of blew up in his face.
It kind of did. So anyway, this time he performed in front of over 600,000 people, along with the Doors, the Who, Lighthouse, 10 Years After, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Joni Mitchell. I mean, there was a ton. Jethro Tull, and Scott's favorite, Tiny Tim. Yep. He was actually...
No, he wasn't there.
He was there.
let me
Tiny
guess. He did one tune.
Tiptoe Through the Tulips, baby. And the fans went crazy.
Do you remember Tiny Tim got married on the Johnny Carson show?
To Miss Vicky.
To Miss Vicky. He got married live on the Johnny
And you
Carson
wonder
show.
where those potato chips got their name.
What you right heard there, but that was an awkward silence.
Miss Vicky's potato chips.
Whatever.
I don't know if there's any connection. I'm just saying that's where my mind went.
He reminds me of Weird Al.
Who?
Yeah, a little bit. His kinky hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. You know what? I can see that.
Yeah. Like Weird Al could be his son, and like.
Weird Al hasn't got a nose like Tiny Tim, though.
Are you high? Have you seen what?
What?
Have you seen Weird Al?
Have you seen Tiny Tim's nose?
Have you seen Weird Al's nose?
If he laid on his back, he'd call shark.
Oh my gosh.
And one more thing about the Isle of Wight Festival. They filmed that. There was a film crew there that filmed it, just like they did Woodstock. And there have been a number of mini films that came from that for different performers, like Miles Davis, Jimi Hendrix, The Who. They all had individual films just of that concert, like a documentary style, because it was so successful.
Yeah, I've heard the Isle of Wight. I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah. It's huge.
Where was this held?
The British Isles.
Yeah.
British Isles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway,
All right,
big event in the 70s.
1970 as well. The breakup of the Beatles.
Oh my gosh.
Now, we could do a whole show just on the breakup
and
of
we
the
probably
Beatles.
will in the future.
Well, because I'm just going to talk about a couple highlights here. But, I mean, a lot of people speculate as to why it happened. But what led up to it and the conflicts between the individual members. Now, Yoko Ono didn't help the situation. But
she gets blamed, doesn't she? She gets blamed for the breakup of the Beatles, but I don't think that's necessarily true.
No, John started to become a little weird, and he brought her to all the recording sessions, and she started to give input and comments, and the other band members. One of the rules was you don't bring people to the recording sessions.
I don't
just
blame them.
Especially
do that.
chicks.
Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, he would bring her, and then when they complained, he said, "It's John and Yoko. We're together. You get both of us. You don't separate us. She's part of the band now." And they didn't like. So I think they could have got past that, but when they hired the new manager, Klein, everything fell apart. Yeah. Even Mick Jagger warned Paul McCartney, "Oh, stay away from that guy." So Paul refused to sign the management contract. The other three Beatles were pissed off because Paul wouldn't sign the management contract for this Klein guy.
Smart guy.
So he didn't sign. So the Beatles said, "Well, we have a majority rules anyway, so we don't need his signature." So they hired him. And it was actually because he left his signature off, he was successful in suing to get out of the Beatles.
No way.
Later on.
That's cool. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So, I mean,
it's like story time without. Like you and I just with our mouths open looking at him.
Well, no, I mean, there's a whole story behind this, but it's, there's too much to go through. But it was one of the major things of the 70s. And obviously they hadn't performed live in a while. And they were actually preparing to do another live show. And Paul was getting pissed off with them, saying, "Guys, are we going to do this or not?" And they were pissed off with him for not signing the management contract for Klein. And they just slowly drifted farther and farther apart and started to work on their own albums. Wow. And Paul actually gave an interview in April of 1970 where he said, "Well, we're taking a rest from the Beatles," and asked if it was permanent. He said, "Well, time will tell." And then they asked him, "Do you think you'll ever write again with John Lennon?" He immediately said no.
Right away.
So
he was flexible on the other questions.
Yeah. So him and John were not getting along. And when John heard that, he was pissed because he wanted to be the one to announce the breakup of the Beatles because he felt he was the founder of the Beatles and he should be the one who announced the breakup, which even made it worse. Wow. So after that, it was over. Wow. But anyway, there's so much more behind the scenes on that. We could do a whole show on that. Maybe we can do that later. Like, why did the Beatles break up?
I'd love to do that. That'd be a great show.
Yeah, it'd be all right.
You're a hater, eh?
I'm not a hater. They have a lot of great tunes. They do. Amazing amount of tunes. But back then, like when I was listening to classic rock and everything, I never owned one Beatle album. Never had them on a playlist. Never made a cassette mix for nothing. Zero.
We will change that.
Yeah, we'll do. There's so much content on the Beatles, and actually, I mean, how long were they together? I mean, how long were they on top of the charts? It wasn't that long, considering what some of the other bands were doing, what we just talked about on our last show, and how long they've been around. Yeah. But again, look at Paul McCartney; he's still going strong. The talent shines through, right?
Yeah.
Actually, you know what, Paul? I heard a story. Paul pissed off Phil Collins one night. They were at some gala or some party in England, and Paul was already there. And Phil Collins walked into the room, and Paul said, "Oh, there's little Phil."
Little Phil.
Yeah, that pissed off Phil. Oh, that pissed off Phil. Wow. That was funny. Hey, you know what? Turned me. Well, I'm not turned around, but the only. What am I trying to say?
What made you like the Beatles a little bit more?
Thank you. Yeah,
Give us one of your sound effects. Go ahead. There we go.
you know what it was?
What was it?
A movie. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I thought you were going to say Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Ferris
God,
Bueller.
no. Yeah, man, on the float.
Oh yeah.
You know the song he did? It was a Beatles tune, right?
It was.
I said, "Oh, that was awesome." Then I thought,
Was it Shaking All Over? Is it
Twist and Shout.
Twist and Shout.
Shout.
Twist and Shout.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Beatles, they slowly grew apart. And you can see all the little things incrementally, how it added to it. Even George Harrison one night was at a party, and he started talking to Art Garfunkel. And they both started talking about, some of the things they were doing, and all of a sudden came up with they weren't happy. And then they started comparing their two Pauls.
Oh, yeah.
And they both said, your Paul's a lot like mine. A little bit domineering and taking all the credit.
Wow.
And it was shortly after that when Simon and Garfunkel, 1970, broke up.
Wow. They broke up when?
1970.
Did they really?
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, 1970. And it was...
Okay, don't quote out on that.
yeah, it was
No,
1970.
he seems pretty sure.
Queeks is looking at him with big eyes.
Bridge Over Troubled Water. What
Bridge Over Troubled Water.
What year was that? 70?
It's February of 1970. It hit
Yeah.
number one.
Yeah. And they broke up the same year after going number one?
They broke up the same year.
Unbelievable.
But-
Now, part of that was Art Garfunkel was trying to pursue an acting career. At the same time, they were trying to perform. And he said to Paul, well, you just write the songs while I'm away, and then I'll come back and perform them. And Paul said, well, that ain't going to happen.
Yeah, can you imagine?
And that more or less put the last, the last
it
stake.
must be really tough, right? Being in a band and having those creative differences and power struggles. Like we love listening to the music, going to the concerts.
But the backstories,
but
I know.
yeah, I mean, it must be freaking hell.
You know what? If us three, if we started a band,
We kill each other.
no, we wouldn't. We would. No, we wouldn't. No, really. And if we were say if we had a number one hit, I wouldn't give a shit.
Right?
You just get along, man.
Dude.
all
You're
just
depositing
gotta
money
get
into my
along.
account. I don't care.
Right.
Dude,
Well, yeah, but that was the problem, though. That was the problem.
Well, at
Paul
the-
was doing all the work, and Garfunkel was just wanted to perform it.
Yeah.
He was like he was. I think he had a little ego issue going
Well,
on.
here's a little piece of trivia for you.
Yeah.
What was Simon and Garfunkel's first name when they came out?
Garfunkel and Simon.
No.
I
How old were they? They were 15 years old,
Yeah.
and they were called Tom and Jerry.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, Tom
I
and Jerry.
heard that trivia.
And their first song that was really recognized in 1957 was called "Hey Schoolgirl."
no kidding.
Yeah, yeah. And then, you remember which song launched them? Like really launched them?
Sounds of Silence.
That is correct. Sound
Boom.
of Silence.
Nice job.
Hit number one in January of 1966. So, 1966 launch, 1970 done.
Well, it kind of helped that The Graduate used it in 1967, the movie, right?
Yeah.
Mike Nichols used it in the movie. So,
But Bridge Over Troubled Water, a ton of people covered that song.
oh my gosh, great tune.
Yeah, Aretha Franklin was one of the big ones that covered it as well. But it's
Now, there's a I mean, we could probably get onto the whole Simon and Garfunkel thing, but there was a thing with the recording of Bridge Over Troubled Waters, and I think Paul Simon, who sang the lead on that?
Art Garfunkel.
Art Garfunkel, but Paul Simon wrote it.
Yes.
And he wanted to sing it. I think.
Well, they discussed it, and he said, "No, you should do it." But later on, he said, "I regret not taking the lead."
I heard that story. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Thanks for listening to this segment of the Inside Rock podcast. To hear the full episode, go to jabberguys.com and listen to our episodes with...
Oh,
Queeks,
And Cha.
the Jabberguys.
Remember to go to our website, jabberguys.com, to subscribe to our podcasts, Inside Rock and Weird and Wacky World.